Hi, I'm Justin and welcome back to Just Shaves. For this video, I want to provide an overview and side-by-side comparison of two razors, the RazoRock Game Changer 84 and the Wolfman Guerrilla 84. This is the bronze version, this one's stainless steel. Before jumping into the actual shave, I wanted to provide a little bit of context and history behind these two razors. I'll start with the Guerrilla actually, because I believe this one has been around a little bit longer than the Game Changer has. So back in 2017, James and Tara Delfor of Wolfman Razors ended up releasing the first iteration of the Guerrilla. And I believe it was supposed to be kind of like a standalone project outside of their standard Wolfman razors. If you're not familiar with Wolfman razors, I'll put a link to them in the description below. So go ahead and check them out. Really high-end, special, made-to-order razors, often in the several hundreds of dollars range. The Guerrilla, I don't know the price they released it at in 2017, but they released a stainless steel version very similar to this razor. And I think it was a small batch. Like I think they just released however many they released. No special configurations. You just bought the razor as it was, and when it was sold out, it was all sold out. In 2023, they ended up bringing the Wolfman back, the Guerrilla back, and they brought it back under its own branding. So it still comes out of the same Wolfman shop, but they actually have their own unique website for the Guerrilla razors now. They offer it in 4 different metals. So they do an anodized aluminum with a number of different color options, stainless steel, this is the bronze, and they also have a titanium one as well. In addition to the 4 metal options, there's 4 bait plate gap options. So they have the 0.54, the 0.69, the 0.84, which is right here, and then the 0.99. And then you can also select either closed comb or open comb for those options. So this particular razor, again, it's coming from the same people who make the Wolfman razors. It does end up being a little bit more affordable. Like it's far from being a budget pick, and I'll go over the pricing in just a little bit, but it is significantly cheaper than the other Wolfman offerings. And I think it's for a couple reasons. One, they kind of standardize the making of this razor. There's less options to configure when you're selecting it. So I think they're able to machine it maybe a little bit quicker. And then it comes in a standard matte finish, outside of the anodized aluminum version, of course, but they have a standard matte finish. So them not polishing it allows the cost to come down, but you're still getting the same high quality machining factor as well. Also forgot to mention, they do have 2 handle options. This they call just the original Guerrilla handle, and then they have a Rebel handle, which is thinner, but has like little notches that you can hold on to. Something that is really cool about this handle in particular is nice, thick, and grippy. And then for the heavier metals, so stainless steel and bronze, they actually hollow out the handle and they plug it at the bottom. Or you can't see the plug, but there's metal that was hollowed out just to help with the balance and the overall weight of it. And then for the stainless steel, the aluminum and titanium, it's actually a solid handle. So it's really just trying to create the same effect. With as thick as the handle is, you would expect it to be very handle heavy, but they have a really good balance. And this is actually one of the best feeling razors I have here. So I'll pause right here and I'll give a little bit of context on the RazoRock Game Changer. Doing my research, and please correct me down in the comments if I'm getting any of the facts wrong here, but I believe this was released in 2018, which was before I was wet shaving. So again, let me know if I'm getting any of my facts mixed up. But this was released by the RazoRock brand. I'll copy the Italian barber site here as well. But they released this with 2 different gap options, the 0.68 and the 0.84 initially. Closed comb variation, which is the one I have here, also with open comb. And I think eventually they released the Jaws version of the open comb, which is still an open comb, but the gap is actually just wider to make it even more efficient. And then I want to say in like 21 or 22, they released the 0.76 gap, really supposed to be in between the 0.84 and the 0.68 that they released. And then later on, they actually released a 1.05 gap, so even more efficient than this 84 that I have. With this, there's a number of different stainless steel handle options that you can select. This one right here is the HD, which is a little bit shorter. This one brings the overall weight of the razor to be about 100 grams here. And this is really one of my favorite razors that I've had. This is the one I kind of credit with kind of starting me down this path. My first razor was the King C Gillette that I got for around $20. Then I moved on to the Rockwell 6C. And then after that, I wanted to get a stainless steel razor and wasn't really sure which direction I was going to go. This one got fantastic reviews and everyone in the community kind of raved about it. And I ended up just trying it out, and I kind of had an aha moment after using this. Like, I realized there's really levels to this shit. Like, this one was noticeably like a noticeable improvement over the Rockwell 6C for me. And with that, it kind of sparked my curiosity, and I kept trying to, try more razors to see how much better it gets than this. And to be honest, there's only a handful of razors that I'd put ahead of this, and all of them are significantly more expensive than this. So I'll just go over price real quick as well. If you go with the Wolfman Guerrilla, their anodized version of the aluminum ends up being about $130, which is pretty significant for an aluminum razor, definitely on the higher end. Stainless steel version is going to cost you around $200, bronze around $230, and then titanium around $280. So this, despite not being under the Wolfman branding, is still a very premium razor and is premiumly priced. And this one's kind of like the people's razor. Like, it's very budget friendly and is priced to do that. This one is going to cost you $55, possibly $60, depending on whether or not you select a different handle to go with it. But again, $55 for a solid stainless steel razor. I haven't seen a better value out there. If you're looking for a stainless steel razor, this is where I would start. And let me know in the comments if I've missed any other stainless steel razors at a better price. But this, in my eyes, is, pretty much as good as it gets when you're talking about bang for your buck. With this one, I did end up getting other plates as well. And the other additional base plates cost you about $30. So that is the one catch. Like, it's $55 if you select the most optimal base plate for yourself. Once you start tacking on base plates, then you're starting to dwindle away at that budget friendliness. But this one, 84, absolutely loved it. After using it pretty routinely, I noticed that when I used it on too many consecutive days, it did start to cause some irritation, specifically in the back of my neck. So it's kind of, just outside of my comfort for like a daily driver range. What ended up being a good solution for me was actually going down to the 0.76 gap, which, for the most part, I get a very similar shave in terms of efficiency, but it's dialed back just enough that I can use it more often. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll use this 0.84 gap on a day where, I've had several days in between my shave and I'm trying to knock down as many hairs, or if I just want a really close shave, and then I'll alternate and take it down to the 0.76 gap sometimes. Another thing I'll do is I'll use this with a lighter titanium handle just to take some of that weight off as well. But overall, this is still just one of my favorite razors. I've basically built the rest of my collection since having this one, and this one still is part of my rotation and stays in my collection. I mentioned this one came out in 2018. And I can't confirm this, but a number of online forums mention this was designed after the 2017 version of the Guerrilla. So quite a few similarities in design, and I'll try to hold these up here so you can see. I won't say that it's a carbon copy, but the head design is quite similar between these two. One of my least favorite things about the Game Changer is it actually has the post on the base plate rather than the top cap. So when you're loading it, you kind of have to do it backwards how you would do any of the other standard three-piece razors. And the 2023 Guerrilla is the opposite. It's kind of like the standard where the posts are on the top cap. But I was looking back at some old photos of the 2017 version, and the posts were actually on the base plate, similar to how they did the Game Changer. So I don't know if they took some inspiration from that or not, or if, they were already working on this and by chance they ended up being very similar. But at the end of the day, the design of these razors very similar. Things I like about the Game Changer is it does cover the tabs. The tabs are slightly exposed on the Guerrilla. Let me see if I can hold it up this way if you can see it a little bit better. not significantly, but they are exposed. Game Changer covers them. Another thing about the Game Changer is the top cap is a little bit longer and extends out further than the Guerrilla does for supporting the blade. And that factor alone, I think, is probably going to make, if I were just looking at the design, I would expect that to work out better as a shaver. And then also the lather channels at the bottom. I have one solid one for the Guerrilla. However, it's a little bit thinner than it is on the Game Changer. Game Changer, to me, this looks like a almost improved design compared to this one. But having used both of these, I'm not really sure which one I'm going to pick as my favorite. But I'm going to jump in and do a side-by-side comparison. Another thing quickly with the specs, this one weighs 100 grams in this current configuration with this handle. And then my bronze version, this one weighs 90 grams. So it's about 10 gram difference, not significant in my opinion. Had I gone with the stainless steel version, it would have come out to exactly the same 100 grams as this RazoRock Game Changer. So that probably would have been a better comparison, but nevertheless, this is the version that I have. And I did mention just the different variations that I have. I started with the 84, ended up trying the 76, and then also the .68 open comb. Between the two, if I were to recommend any of the gaps to like the average person, I would say try the 76 first. But again, your mileage may vary. There's quite a few shavers out there that think the straight bar 68, which is on the bottom end of this, is, you know, as good as it needs to be and don't have any interest in going up. And then conversely, I know people that don't think this is enough razor and really love the 1.05 gap. For me, myself personally, similar to the challenges I had with this 84, the RazoRock, using the Guerrilla 84 was, you know, I got a very smooth, comfortable shave, but when I stacked too many days back to back, it did end up causing some irritation. I actually ended up ordering the an open comb slash straight bar version of the .69 gap version, and I use that one a little bit more often. I kind of save this one for when I have a lot more hairs built up, or I'm putting some more space in between my shaves. But with that, that's the overall comparison. Whole lot of similarities between these two. You know, this one dollar for dollar is going to beat most razors. This is going to be more of a luxury item. I think the function is going to be very similar between the two, but this one's going to be more of a luxury item versus this one's going to be the budget pick. So with that, I'll pause right here and I'll jump into the side-by-side shave. All right, I'm back and all lathered up. Gonna start with the Guerrilla 84 on the right side of my head now. And I've got about 3 days worth of growth right now, and really no struggle with this. Forgot to mention I have a Gillette Nasset blade that I'll be using for both razors here. So going with the sharper blade today. And so far through this first pass, really no complaints with this. No big issues with the lather channels just now either. I kind of mentioned, although it's a straight line all the way across, it's a bit on the thinner side. So if one of these two razors were to struggle with clearing the lather channels, I'd expect the Guerrilla to, but really no issues here. Also mentioned the handle, I just absolutely love. Overall feel in the hand is, you know, one of my favorites. Like, it actually just feels like a quality piece that I'm using here. Cut over to the RazoRock Game Changer. This is just, you know, an effortless razor that I'm using here. One gripe with it, it's a little bit much for me personally if I'm using it each and every day, but putting a few days in between my shaves, this is still one of my favorites. And so far through this first pass, honestly, I'd have a hard time deciding between these two. They both feel so similar. Touch the blade feel on both razors. Both these gap variations, there's just so much efficiency that there's, like it feels like your hairs just aren't really putting up much of a resistance. Therefore, it's a very smooth shaving experience. And I think we're good on the top and the sides. So I'll relather and cut over to the back of my head now. Okay. And then we're back to the gorilla on the right side of the head here. Oops. Yeah, there's so much efficiency here. And then I am getting a hint of the gorilla's lather channels getting clogged up here. I've seen worse, but it is worth noting on here. And then with the blade tabs being exposed, I do need to be extra careful around the back of my hair, my ear here. But again, no, just awesome efficiency from the Gorilla 84 here. Quick ones there. And then back to the Game Changer for the left side of the head. Again, just all the efficiency I could ever ask for is right here. All right, I'll rinse and be back for the second pass. All right, back for my second pass. Gonna start with the Game Changer, the side, sticking to it on the left side of the head here. Yeah. And just, again, one of the smoothest shaving razors I own. And it was also one of the first ones I got. One of the first razors in my collection, and I still have, you know, despite trying to try as many razors as I could the last year and a half or so, very few I think are actually better shavers at the end of the day over this Game Changer, at least for me and my skin. I think we're good on this pass right here. Then cutting back over to the Gorilla. And so far this second pass has been very easy for both razors because they both did so well on the first pass. There really isn't a whole lot left behind in terms of the amount of stubble I have. Second pass for both of these razors is basically just a cleanup. Kind of just getting the spots I might have missed. Okay. And I didn't even dry my hands in between passes, and this handle's maybe a little, well, compared to how grippy the RazoRock handles are, this one is a little bit on the slicker side, but honestly, no issues here still. And I had the choice to dry my hands in between, and for whatever reason, I didn't. So, still the balance of it, I just absolutely love it. Then I'll relather back of my head, and one quick pass for both razors on the back of my head, and then I think we'll call it good. So going back to the Game Changer. Okay, I think we're good there. And on to the Guerrilla. What's kind of rare or unique with both of these razors, it's not common that I feel so comfortable with the razor that I try to do my whole back of my head in one stroke. And it might be because both of them did so well on the first pass, I'm able to get away with it here. And it's not something I'm thinking about, it's just, intuitively as I'm feeling the razor, I didn't feel the need to stop in the middle of that pass right there. So that was really awesome for both razors. Okay, I'll pause right here. I'll get rinsed off and I'll be right back with my final thoughts. All right, back with my final thoughts. Ending shave results, I'm gonna have to say was a draw. Really, even during the shave, I had a hard time telling the difference between these two razors, just in terms of the efficiency and the amount of blade feel. Like, it was basically indistinguishable. And then ending shave results, I really can't tell the difference, or even in the middle where I swap from one razor to another, it feels the same. So major takeaway here is I was able to get really the same functional shave out of the RazoRock Game Changer compared to the Guerrilla 84. If I had to recommend just one, I would say it kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you're in the market for a stainless steel razor, I think this one's a slam dunk. I would absolutely recommend this to anyone, especially, at this price point. Even if you're not sure, it's worth trying, in my opinion. The Guerrilla, I would say, luxury item. If you were looking at stainless steel, I don't know if I could justify spending $200 on this when the $55 version of the RazoRock is available and is going to give you the exact same shave. You can even make the argument for the bronze, unless you're, a collector and, really just wanted to have a bronze razor. Now, if you like the Game Changer, but also like lighter razors as well, this one's only made in stainless steel. And if you were to consider getting the Guerrilla in either the aluminum or the titanium, just to have a lighter option that's going to be comparable, then I would see kind of an argument for going with the Guerrilla. But if you're sticking with stainless steel or bronze even, the shave was so similar that I couldn't justify the price difference. And then, a few other comparisons here. Overall, I like the balance and the feel of the hand of this original Guerrilla handle. However, the RazoRock ones are awesome and are very grippy and affordable as well. So I like the feel of this one better. The Game Changer with this HD handle was grippier for me. And then with the Game Changer, I do love that the tabs are covered up. And then the lather channels on the Game Changer I thought were better as well. Aside from that, it was really the same shave I got out of these. So Again, highly recommend this. This is probably my favorite bang for the buck razor. The 84 gap might not be the best one for you, but they have plenty of other options to consider as well. And the Guerrilla, this is something you'd treat yourself to if you're an enthusiast. And again, I'd recommend getting it in something other than the stainless steel because, the Game Changer is an option already and is so much more affordable. But you can get some really cool anodized aluminum razors. They have all the different colors available. Or if you love this razor but wished it was titanium or something, the Guerrilla would then be a good option to turn to. But at the end of the day, I got very close to the same shave. One's more affordable than the other, so just take that into consideration there. But with that, I'll call this one job well done. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everyone.